This is Mission Transition, a podcast powered by still serving veterans. Here, those who've served open up about what comes after the military, the questions, the breakthroughs, and the lessons learned. Because transition isn't the end of the mission, it's the beginning of the next one.
All right, good morning. Welcome back to another episode of Mission Transition with still serving veterans. I'm Cory Hopkins. I'm having a chat with Miguel Hernandez. He's a retired Sergeant Major from the United States Army. So we're really happy to have him on today. So it'll be a good show today. So with that being said, Miguel, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, how long you served, what you do? Because I know we talked before, you got a pretty unique background from, your MOS to the types of jobs that you had. So tell us all about that, please.
Yes, sir. Good morning. So my name is Miguel Hernandez. I'm originally from New York City. I'm born and raised in Queens. I enlisted in the Army in 2003. I enlisted as a 91 hotel, which is a track vehicle repair. I came in an E1, E-Fuzzy, and I ended up, my last role was as a Operations Sergeant Major at the United States Army, Sergeant Major's Academy. I served a total of 21, almost 22 years, shy just of maybe 20 or so days. My career was it was unique, like you said. I signed up as a mechanic, and I think I've only did that job for about 2 years. After that, I made sergeant, and after that, it was pretty much just like leadership roles. They took my toolbox from me, gave it to a Joe, and from there, it was just on with leadership. I've touched programs, commanders programs such as EO, Sharp, and I had a long 72 months as a first sergeant.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to ask. Well, tell us about that first sergeant time. I thought that was the last time we talked, that was a unique experience.
Yeah, so after I came off the trail as a drill sergeant, I went to Okinawa, Japan. And when I got to Okinawa, Japan, they were in real dire need of SARCs. So they took me out of the SPO position, which was a maintenance position. That's the support operations. They took me out of that, which I was doing my job as a maintainer. And they made me the SARC for the, I guess you could say it was the brigade, 10th Regional Support Group. And then the general who was in charge of USRJ on Tokyo, he needed a SARC for Tokyo as well. So they dual-hatted me, and I became the lead SARC for all of theater for Japan.
Right.
I did that for 3 years. 2018, I won SARC of the Year for the Army.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that was a great accomplishment. And then I became promotable. I was a Sergeant First Class. I became promotable upon PCSing, and I landed a position at 131 Field Hospital, which is in Fort Bliss, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, like, what am I going to do at a field hospital? I'm a mechanic. So they had me down as a Sergeant First Class, and I was supposed to take over their motor pool. And then once they realized that I was promotable and they weren't authorized my position, they told me to go find a job. So I went to go find a job somewhere. I applied, did some interviews with the Garrison, with the NCO academies, the Sergeant Major's Academy. And I was looking for a first sergeant job because I was a Sergeant First Class, promotable, looking to get frocked and get in a position so I can get my rated time.
Sure.
And I found a job at Garrison, and they told me, hey, get a letter of release from your unit and we'll give you a letter of acceptance. And so I said, okay. I went back to the unit, and they were like, hey, you have to cancel that because we're going to make you our first sergeant. So here I am, a first sergeant over, a field hospital there on Bliss. It was different. It was challenging. The basic NCO things and training, that was all normal. And that's pretty much MOS immaterial with any first sergeant. It becomes when you start dealing with tactics and their TTPs and SOPs and things like that. It's when you're kind of blindsided. But as long as you're open to learning new things and you'll make your way through.
Right.
So I did that for 18 months, and then an actual 68 whiskey came in. So I volunteered to be a first sergeant in First Armored Division, and I took an FSC in the ordnance or in the FA community, the field artillery, and I did that for 24 months. And I was about to PCS, and my brigade and division sergeant major requested that I get my orders canceled, and I take the First Armored Division HHC brigade first sergeant job, which is it's unbelievable to be a mechanic and to take a 19 kilo tankers, first sergeant billet. But they
especially
had
for HHC.
yeah,
HHC,
a brigade HHC.
Right, exactly.
So I did that for a year, and then I ended up PCSing, and I went to Hawaii, and I landed a job in the 516 Signal Brigade. And I don't know what I was going to do they didn't have an FSC in the Signal Brigade, so they made me a first sergeant once again over an HHC.
Wow.
So I did that, and while I was there, I told them, hey, listen, don't fall in love with me because I'm not going to be here a long time. I was getting looked at this point for sergeant major, and it means so much for a mechanic to take a brigade, an armor brigade. I already knew that pretty much I was going to get selected for sergeant major. So I was there 6 months, and then I got the orders to saying, hey, you're going to go to the United States Army Sergeant Major's Academy. And then I finished my tour. I did 1 year there, and I PCS'd, and I went to the academy. So it's kind of, a lot of jobs outside of my MOS, pretty much since I was a sergeant. I mean, I've been working kind of outside my MOS. But I think that's the great thing about the Army is that, it's a Swiss knife. It's an Army Swiss knife, right? Like there's more levels of leadership than just, hey, do you really know your job?
Right. Yeah. And I think, it's great that, you talk about looking for a job and that kind of stuff that, a lot of people think that in the military, you just have a job that you don't have to go out and look for a job. So it's kind of like being a civilian too. You have to go out there and look for a job and and do interviews like you were doing and that kind of stuff. So hopefully that helped you out. So what originally, when you're looking back 20 plus years ago, what motivated you to join the military?
Initially, before I joined the Army, I was an LPN. I was a licensed practitioner nurse.
Really?
Yeah, and I wanted to go and get my RN. The difference in pay was at the time it was $25 an hour for an LPN, and it was around $50 an hour for an RN.
Right.
So I wanted to get some college money so that I could go and get this, additional education, so that I could make more money. So initially it was college money that got me in there. Unfortunately, when I went to MEPS, this is a funny story. When I went to MEPS, I told them, I want to go through the RN program, and this is what my goals are. Here's my licenses. I'm already a licensed practitioner nurse. And they said, oh, okay, hey, that's great. Said, listen, jobs open up daily, and currently there are no slots open for medics. He said, but I tell you what, if you do me a favor, and I'll do one in return. And I said, okay, I'm really unaware of this process.
Right.
And he says, well, I tell you what, I'm short on signing up for mechanics today. So do me a favor, enlist today, sign up as a mechanic, and because you're on delayed entry, which was about a month and a half, almost 2 months, he said, because you're on delayed entry, when slots open up tomorrow, I'll go ahead and move your packet over.
Yeah.
So, hey, I'm like, this guy's a professional. He's in a uniform. He knows what he's doing, I said, okay, man. So I signed up, raised my right arm. I swore in, And after the delayed, I went to basic training at Fort Knox, and I'm meeting all of the 68 whiskeys that are in my, BCT. And I'm like, yeah, man, we're going to Fort Sam after this, San Antonio, here we come. And I hung out with them. I mean, I was the PG. I was a little
Right.
older. I was 25 when I joined,
Okay,
right?
me
So I was
too. Me too.
a little older than the population of the
Yep.
18-year-olds.
Right.
So yeah, I was the PG, and hey, we're getting everybody lined up to get on buses. Here comes that big 201 packet. I'm handing them out, and next thing you know, the bus for San Antonio filled up, and I was like, oh man, it's got to be an overflow bus. I haven't gotten on, so
Yeah.
I get on this other bus. They tell me, hey, this is your bus. I get on that bus, and we're driving through Maryland. I mean, we're on Greyhounds at the time.
Right.
They give you a little voucher to stop, a little cash to buy a meal.
Right.
But yeah, I ended up in Maryland. I'm seeing all these cross wrenches and ordnance balls, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm not supposed to be here. So drill sergeant gets on the bus and says, "Who's the PG?" And I raise my hand. I'm in the front seat, and I said, "I am drill sergeant." He said, "Is there anybody here that's not supposed to be here?" So I told him my story.
Right.
He made me go tell the first sergeant, which made me go
Right.
tell the sergeant major and the colonel. So they ended up doing a congressional for me, straight out of
Really?
AIT. They did a
Holy
congressional,
cow.
and it took 26 weeks because I was graduating AIT at this point, and
Right.
it came back like the day before graduation. Hey, you can go ahead and graduate, or you can go ahead and go to Fort Sam, reclass. And if you know anything about the medical field, you have to do continuing education credits in order to maintain your license.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, I didn't have any of those hours done, and my license was about to
Right.
expire.
Right.
So I thought about it, spoke with the family, and they were like, "Hey, just go ahead and turn some wrenches." You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so it was a shock for me because I did have a goal. I did have some aspirations of what I wanted to be, but then hey, I got handed this amazing job as a sustainer that
Mm-hmm.
I would have never. I've never even changed a tire prior to joining the Army. Like
Right.
I don't understand how how they equated that I was going to be a really good mechanic.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you just take what life gives you sometimes, and you try to make the best of it.
Sure. Sure. So you talked about the transition into the military. So let's talk about the transition before you're getting ready to retire. It's pretty unique that you made Sergeant Major in less than 20, right?
I did. I did. I made it
Yeah.
in 18.
That's nice, man. That's awesome. So talk about that, when you're getting ready to retire, getting ready to transition. So what did you do to help you transition, or what advice would you give to people that are getting ready, either retire, transition out of the military, that kind of stuff? So what steps did you take?
As a senior leader, you learn to network. You learn to talk to people, and I really was fortunate that my wife was a senior enlisted master sergeant in the United States Army as well,
Oh,
and she
nice.
happened to transition about a year and a half before I did.
Mm,
So she made the list to go to the Sergeant Major's Academy as well, and this is before we PCS to Hawaii. And I told her, I said, "Hey, look, like we're probably both going to be Sergeant Majors." And
mm-hmm.
she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "I don't think that's going to work for us." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" She's like, "We're already busy as
Mm,
master sergeants, you know what I mean? And
mm,
our kids
mm.
were somewhere within the ages of maybe 11 and maybe 9 at the time.
Right.
So, it's kind of like we're already working, 16 to 18 hours a day, and just imagine when we're sergeant majors,
Mm,
So she ended up not going to the Sergeant Majors Academy. She put in for a retirement because she was at 21 years as well at that point. And I had to watch her go through transitions. And it was like the blind leading the blind.
mm.
Because I feel like when you're a senior leader in the military, any branch, I would assume that you're expected to know a certain amount of things, right?
Right.
And you're usually in charge of things, right? So they they expect for you to transition just like you would when you PCS and you're new change of station. You go through a checklist, you get everything done, you're in
Right.
process, and it almost felt as if, oh, Sergeant Major, don't worry about it. You don't need to be here for this brief. This is for the lower enlisteds. And I really felt like, no, I really need to be here for these briefs. Like I
Right.
really want to know. So I refused to leave. I sat in there in a room with a bunch of privates that were getting chaptered, or it didn't matter to me. It was what can I gain out of this? The first time I PCS'd, I was already 13 years into the Army.
13 years for
I
the
was I
first
was
time
at
you PCS'd?
first time I ever PCS. I was at Fort Benning from
13.
from 2003 to all the way to 2015. 15 was the
Dang.
first time I PCS. I was a Sergeant First Class. So they
Dang.
told me, hey, you don't have to be here for this levy brief. I don't know how to PCS,
Yeah.
So like
Right.
I've always felt like I was behind the power curve when it came to movements and moving, like PCSing or retiring. When I did go through my transition, it was kind of nerve-wracking for me because they'll say, hey, look, this is the TAP program. These are all the services, that they're provided for you. But depending on your window of how much time you have left
Mm.
because you get your retirement orders and everything, and then they allow you to go through and start, doing the TAP and, and all these other little things. Like I didn't get to take advantage of the CSP, which I think is a wonderful program.
You're right.
I
Yeah.
didn't give that opportunity because I didn't have enough time. Now I could have extended probably,
Mm.
but at this time when you pull the trigger and say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and retire, there's a few things you need to have in order. One, finances. I'm not going to say that you have to have everything paid off. That's the ideal thing, is to have all your credit paid off, like, and you're not living paycheck to paycheck. But the reality of living in America today is that,
Right.
hey, we, as fast as we get it, it goes out the next day. It's spent, it's bills, it's the normal life and maintaining of life. Um, but I think the thing that worked for me was I watched my wife go through this transition, and luckily she had me to fall back on, where she didn't have to worry about a paycheck, right? The, the 3 months that you have to wait in order for your paychecks to hit, kind of, was uh, a struggle, for my wife initially when she got out, because she's used to having her own money,
Right.
and then you don't have that through, 3 months of paycheck before your disability or your retirement hit. So that transition was a little tough for her. For me, it was a little different. I think my transition was, today I am a Sergeant Major in the United States Army, and tomorrow nobody's calling me. Nobody's, my WhatsApp's not binging anymore. I've been removed from the groups. My
Yeah.
Signal chat has been, what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm no longer part of the mission. And for me, that was probably the hardest part of my transition, was because I'm used to having my hands in things, and not so much micromanaging, but being part of a team, and making sure that the mission is a success. And now I'm no longer part of the mission.
Right.
So, my days in the beginning were cleaning the house, like organizing things, and, trying to reach out to people who are at work.
Right.
Hey, look, guy, I don't have time to talk to you right now. I'm busy, and I'm like,
Right.
okay, I get it. I get
Right.
it, like, so finding that group of people that are retired and do nothing in the daytime
Right.
was challenging for me.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think that I run into a lot of people, I work with a lot of people that are in that similar, were or are in that similar space of like, hey, they're just getting out, whether just retired or just getting out. And it's kind of like, now what? What do I do now?
Hmm.
It's really, that transition is really, can be tough in that respect, because you are used to being in a leadership position, being able to, when you call, people answer the phone. When you send an email, there's a response back. But with that transition, it can be difficult. And that's why I recommend a lot of people use a calendar, and especially especially for retired people, you use a calendar, because now you're creating your own schedule. Instead of your job creating your schedule, you're
Hmm.
having to create your own schedule. So That's what we have. We have a saying around here saying, looking for a job is your new job. So make sure to, set those boundaries for yourself that you're able to, wake up in the morning, do whatever it is that you're doing in the morning routine, and then sit down and look for a job, really put the application process in. And so speaking of that, how did you land in, you got a unique job now too. You
I do.
continue so how did you transition into that job? Talk to us about how you got that job and tell us about your job, please.
Okay. So, like you said, you have to make that part of your routine to try to
Mm-hmm.
find a job. Um, I really didn't want to work when I got out. I said,
Mm-hmm.
hey, like
Same.
I don't want to have to, do a leave form to go somewhere, like I'm finally free in the
Right.
sense where I don't have to ask to do anything.
Yep.
So I really didn't want to get a job, but mostly I wasn't prepared.
Mm.
I didn't really know what it takes, right? Because yes, I've
Right.
interviewed for jobs in the Army, and most of the time my SRB, which is your soldiers, like your ERB, that's what actually a lot of interviews are based off of, right? It's
Right.
your
That's your
your
resume.
rap sheet, it's your resume,
Right.
and a lot of jobs I applied for, hey, like that spoke for me. I didn't really have to, so I didn't really understand, and it was a little bit of fear to get out
Mm.
there and because you know what, at the end of the day, nobody cares that you served. Thank you for
Mm.
your service. That's pretty much what you get. Hey, thank you for
Right.
your service, but what can you do for our organization? And I totally understand that, right?
Sure.
Because they're trying to utilize people for what they need for their business to be successful.
Right.
you know and I just didn't understand how to convert, and that's where still serving veterans really was it was pivotal for me. I really am an advocate of the organization because it allowed me to, hey, like, send me your NCORs. Let's look at this. Let's convert this into civilian, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what the organization did for me. I'm gonna tell you that the TAP program, they said, yeah, there's a resume class. You go in there and they show you a book and there's a link, and that's it. And it's like,
Right.
if you have questions, they'll answer them, but they're not about to write it for you.
Right.
Like so yeah, initially I landed a job through a friendship.
Mm.
A mentor of mine had retired about a year prior, and he did 30 years.
Wow.
And he was a command sergeant major at his highest position. Um, he's also my son's godfather.
Mm.
And he said, "Hey, well, so what are you going to do?" And I said, "I don't know." He says, "All right, well, until you make your mind up, go ahead and fill out this application." And he made me fill out an application online, and he had some gentleman call me. I mean, once again, hand led.
Mm-hmm.
I was hand led into that, and that's why it's so important to have networking and to
I agree.
have good relationships with people. You don't ever want to be that guy that people are looking forward to when, oh, he's PCSing here shortly. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, we'll be
Mm-hmm.
back to business once he leaves. So I always prided myself on building relationships and networking. But so the job that I landed, it's through a company called Raytheon. There's a subcontractor called V2X, and what they do is so NTC, JRTC, JMRC. All right. So what they do is they have contracts, and I'm a senior analyst. And what I do is I go into this talk, if you will, and I'm tracking all of the soldiers that are wearing Miles gear
Right.
and their equipment. And I'm listening on the radio, and I'm writing everything down in logs and like 1594s, log sheets. I'm writing everything down. I get the op order before they go out, so I understand what their commander's intents are and what their training focus is and what they're trying to do. And then I just create a PowerPoint at the end of it, just saying, hey, like, here's a 20 slide PowerPoint. If this is where you hit the mark, this is where you didn't hit the mark, this is what you can do to get better. So I create that little PowerPoint for them, and yeah, that's about it. And it's 2 weeks. Most of the time, like this, I'm about to actually leave tomorrow, and I'll be gone for 19 days. So
Wow.
depending on if it's a heavy brigade coming through, light infantry, or whatever it is, but it also JMRC out of Holmesfeld, Germany. They also they use NATO forces that come through there as well. So you
Right.
have international troops that are in training with the American troops.
Yep. And you talk about home fields. That was my first duty station when I was a medic. We
Yeah,
were op four. So, um,
that's awesome. Oh, so
yeah, no, it was,
you were one of those guys, huh? The op
yeah,
four?
I loved it, man. That was the best duty station I ever had, because we would do those rotations, back then they would call them a HIC rotation, high intensity combat rotation.
Hmm.
And then, so we'd last for 30 days, maybe 45 days, but then we'd get like back to back 4 days off. And man, you talk about traveling. That was great. Hey,
Yep.
so we're gonna wrap this up.
Okay.
If you were give some advice or what, and I like that you talked about the networking piece because we talk about that quite a bit because that's the number one way to get a job is through networking, who you know, what's going on like that. But what message would you give to people that are either transition out of the military or looking to get another job? Kind of like your situation, right? You have a job, and you're looking to maybe refine it or get something a little bit more conducive to the family, so you don't have to travel as much.
Hmm.
So talk to us about that, please.
So I'm gonna tell you one thing that I would just kind of throw out there for everybody, whether you retire Sergeant Major, Master Sergeant, Sergeant First Class, Staff Sergeant, whatever your rank is, right? I would say one thing that I learned and that I would love to pass on is that regardless of where you were when you were in the Army or in whatever branch of service, don't expect that you're going to automatically be guaranteed some kind of job when you get out.
Mm-hmm.
I had people telling me, "Oh, Sergeant Major, don't worry about it. You're going to land a job, 100 grand a year. You look at all the stuff you've done. Look at all the," and it's great that I did all that stuff, right? But having an organization like Still Serving Veterans that will help you break that stuff down into civilian terms,
Mm-hmm.
and like that was so big for me. But I just thought when I got out, like, oh man, I'm a sergeant major, like I'm gonna get a job. There's gonna be tons of jobs out there for me.
Mm-hmm.
But ask in the civilian world how many jobs is out there for sergeant majors.
Right.
you know
Right.
sergeant major's role is so vast, or you know what I mean, like
Right.
there's so many different aspects to it, and how do you narrow that down? Yeah,
Mm.
project management. There's buzzwords out there, but unless you do the research, and find organizations like Still Serving Veterans to help you break that stuff down, you're going to be lost. And
Mm-hmm.
and you're not guaranteed any job. There are some unique circumstances where, hey, today you're a green suiter, tomorrow you come in as a civilian, in those specialty jobs, right? But I wouldn't bank on that, because look at the government now, shut down,
Right. Yeah.
and all those
100%.
civilians looking for
You never.
jobs, or well, they had a job, but guess what? They may not have one when it
Right.
opens back up, right? So
100%.
it's very important to learn to market yourself and
Mm-hmm.
and to make those connections and networks through people that have done it. I've always been one of those people that I don't have to bump my head to know that the cabinet is open. Like someone can tell me, "Hey, watch your head," and I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
watch. I'm gonna move my head.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people that are just hard headed. They have to learn that way. Unfortunate for me, I'm not that way. I can listen, and I've learned through the years is you got to humble yourself, and think about when you retire and you're transitioning back to zero.
Mm.
I don't care if you retired Sergeant Major of the Army or the head Sergeant Major of any of the other branches. When you get out, it's all about networking, and it's all about humbling yourself and getting back to zero. Some of that self care, I had to take
Mm-hmm.
care of. I had to do that. I had to take care of
Yeah.
myself,
100%.
mentally, physically, and also spiritually.
Right.
For things that I used to be able to say, "Oh, I'm not going to church today. I got to go in." Like that was my scapegoat. I mean, I'm Christian, and I definitely love to go to church, but I always had a scapegoat. Like,
Right.
hey, I'm on call, or hey, I don't want to go. It's too much of a hassle. Um, but hey, now I let my hair grow out. I'm just kind of I'm Miguel now.
Right.
And you have to learn to live in your own skin and
Right.
and be okay with it.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, I really appreciate you, Sergeant Major, coming on here, helping us out. This is going to go out to, hundreds, maybe thousands of people, and they're
Hmm.
really going to be able to benefit your words of wisdom and stuff like that. So, and we really appreciate, you working with us, still serving veterans, to help out and stuff like that. So,
Yes,
again, I
sir.
really, really appreciate it. And until next time, we'll see you later, brother.
Thank you. God bless.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thanks for listening to Mission Transition, a podcast from Still Serving Veterans. Have a question, a comment, or want to share your transition story on the show? We'd love to hear from you. Send us an email, social@ssv.org.